This past weekend, we were scheduled to give a speech at the Art in the Park event for Domestic Violence Awareness Month for the Schuylkill Hope Center. That event was sadly canceled due to Hurricane Ivan making its way up the eastern coast of the United States. Instead, we decided to give that speech here today, and we hope you enjoy. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matt Haslam from the TV show Powered by Rainbows. But like they said, I'm much better known online as Professor Pride. Before we get started, I wanted to thank the Schuylkill Hope Center for inviting me here today and for hosting this incredible event for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. For a lot of people, art is simply a painting like the Mona Lisa or a sculpture like the Statue of David. These paintings or sculptures rest in museums or galleries, and we interpret them in our own unique ways. For others like myself, art is filmmaking and telling a story to an audience. For example, one of the stories I tell my audience online is the man who painted the Mona Lisa, Leonardo da Vinci, and the man who sculpted the Statue of David, Michelangelo. They were both very gay men. But that's just one of the many true stories we tell on our show every week, because history books in school refuse to teach kids how normal being gay, bisexual, or transgender are. For all my life, I've been a storyteller. I started off writing country music songs, another form of art that helped me overcome depression as a child. I would write songs about bullies in school, and the ability to tell these stories was cathartic for me. Back 21 years ago, I never thought getting my first camera for Christmas that year would lead me to telling stories to millions of people around the world today. Back then, friends, family members, and every adult I can talk to all had the same message, that I was never going to make it as a country music star. To be fair, they were kind of right. I'm not Taylor Swift. But my passion took a new direction over those years. Back then, I wasn't surrounded with 30 of the most highly qualified educators, researchers, and writers, nor did I have all the professional filmmaking gear we have now today. All I had was a camera that would record to VHS tapes and an editing program on my family computer called Windows Movie Maker. It took weeks to edit my first video, and I'm proud to say that video was a spoof of CSI. Only in my version, the victim was a smashed pumpkin, because props were massively expensive and special effects were unheard of in Movie Maker. I got 2 shop lights from Lowe's or Home Depot. Whichever one is willing to sponsor this episode, we'll leave in the video. But that's just how all of us artists start off. I get asked all the time by kids who want to make films, what is the first step? Artists will tell me they're not any good at painting or playing music yet. But do you really think that Spielberg started off with $1 million films? No. So this is how artists start off their careers. We start with the bare essentials and spend most of our free time working on perfecting our skills. When you don't have the best camera money could buy, your talents running a camera have to make up for the difference. When you don't have the best easel or materials, your talents have to make up for the difference. The truth is, the audience at home doesn't care if you have the best equipment. They just want to see a great product or be told a great story. There's no excuses you can give them to make them want to watch or buy. That's why being an artist is so difficult, because there's so much time, effort, and talent that goes into perfecting the art forms we choose. So as you're walking around here today, you're not buying the paint or the canvas. Instead, you're paying for the artist's time and talents. It's why art has a higher price tag than overly manufactured items you can find in a big box store. But our world puts little value on any artwork. Whenever someone says they want to be an artist, adults tell them to get a real job or have a more realistic dream. Even when artists go out and try to start a career, they're told to spend years of their life working for experience or exposure. That truly never comes. It's such a big problem in the art and entertainment industry that I wrote my first ever book all about it, called Treble Soul. The truth is, while our world might not value the artist nearly enough, we need the artwork they create. Without it, you wouldn't have museums, galleries, movies, television, radio, or anything else to entertain your weekend with. So art is one of the greatest things on earth. It can break down political barriers. It can break through different languages or religious beliefs. It can make us see past the color of someone else's skin. Help us not even notice the person someone loves is the same gender, or see past the binary world we live in. 21 years ago, if you told me that art has the power to bring people together, I truly don't know if I could believe you back then. After all, there were so many skeptics filling my life back then that I thought, if anything, art tore people apart. But for the past 6 years now, I've watched the worst homophobes and transphobes learn how to slightly do better. I've watched them have civil conversations with those they don't agree with the most in my comment section. Sure, there are still bad people in the world, but I've watched the world get slightly less bad than it used to be. Surely, if we were to talk about how art brings people from all walks of life together, there would be no greater example than this event today. Art in the Park brought all of us together for a common goal of ending domestic violence and the stigma associated with it. It's crazy to think that something as simple as art would have this amazing power to not just bring people together, but to bring a person back together too. I told you that 21 years ago, I started making films and writing songs. It's funny to look back to the first ever song I wrote and tell people it was all about a deer getting hit by a car and going to deer heaven. Needless to say, it was a very weird song to write and perform. Ever since then, the films and the songs I wrote got better and better until I was telling stories of breakups and bullies at school. For me, art was the way I told stories to the audience and the world. But it was also a way for me to tell these stories to myself and hopefully convince myself that I would be okay again. If I could tell the story to other people, I can get over whatever it was I was going through. Many years ago now, I relied on other people telling their personal stories to random strangers on the internet, on this website called YouTube. It was thanks to those stories and their artwork that helped me know I wasn't alone. So after I came out as gay, I decided to join these filmmakers and make my own short films and videos for the internet, telling kids my journey and telling them it gets better. I started dating shortly after that. Now, for some of you that are not LGBTQ, you might think that's weird to start dating at 25 years old. But for those in the community, it's sadly normal, thanks to the endless discrimination we receive when we're younger from our parents and teachers. That's one of the reasons I actually wrote and illustrated my own children's book called Shadow's First Christmas, to help people stop this endless discrimination on our kids. But the point is, I started dating and trying to find someone to share the rest of my life with. Although I won't share his name here, my first boyfriend was someone I thought I cared for deeply. It wasn't until a few dates into our relationship that I started telling him how much I cared for him. Without knowing what it meant at the time, I would tell him, "I love you," and he would always reply saying how ugly I was. About a month after becoming boyfriends, he started hitting me and pushing me to the asphalt outside of his house every time I tried to kiss him goodnight. I had bruises all over my body for weeks that I never told anyone about. I kept taking pictures of the bruises, thinking that if it ever goes too far, I could always turn them into the police and they would handle it. But I never sought help from the police and spent 3 months with him before breaking up. The sad truth is, I was far from alone. Less than 5% of LGBTQ people who survive domestic violence seek help from the authorities because the police are not trained on how to handle domestic violence in same-sex couples. And worse yet, we often feel like we're harming the community by speaking out publicly about our experiences. Our world is slowly making progress in accepting LGBTQ people, but if I spoke up about a boy being abusive to me, as an outspoken leader of our community, I feared others thinking that our whole community was just as bad as this one boy was to me. Worst of all, I thought if I broke up with him, that my family would hate me. I told them I was gay just 6 months before this, and now that I had a boyfriend, I wanted to break up with him. Maybe they would feel like I tried being gay and it just wasn't for me. So I stayed with an abusive partner much longer than I had to, or should have, until I had enough evidence to show them this man was not like the rest of the community, and show them the true reason for breaking up with him. Eventually, I would share my story with my audience online, and overwhelmingly, I saw support of so many people just like me, who survived such a horrible partner. Once again, filmmaking and art were bringing thousands of people together who would normally never speak to one another if they walked by each other on the sidewalk. But thanks to those videos, I found myself in the middle of a support group. The best part of sharing that story online was watching law enforcement ask how they could do better to help same-sex couples, and reading comments from straight viewers, learning that while domestic violence is not normal in the LGBTQ community, they learned that it can happen in any type of relationship. Years after that whole ordeal, I would go on another first date, and this time, I truly understood what it meant to care for someone and have them love me the same in return. Without the art and filmmaking years before, I often wonder if I could have dated another person ever again. Or would that domestic violence experience have robbed me from meeting my true love someday? I'm lucky to say that man running our cameras here today and helping me at our booth is the love of my life, named Michael. And from saying that, you can likely guess that he is one of the 30 amazing people who help make our TV show possible every week. Together, we can make another piece of art 3 times every week. And our 700 episodes so far get to serve as a gallery for people to enjoy and interpret. I'm proud to say my team has forever changed the way our education system works. And we wrote an entire class for teachers on how to be more LGBTQ friendly in their schools. We built resources for employers to ensure their workers are safe, and we built a website where kids can be themselves in a safe space. Without art, filmmaking, music, writing, photography, graphic design, and the amazing talents of every single one of our team members coming together every week, none of that would be possible. I can't tell you the world is all perfect now, but I can tell you that it's slightly better than it used to be. And like I said in the beginning, that's the whole point of art in the first place. I know some kids here today or watching at home might be hearing from your parents or teachers to set more realistic goals, or you might be told that being an artist is not a real job. But after 21 years of this being my passion and career, and after years watching friends make the most incredible artwork, music, films, write powerful stories, or capture breathtaking photographs, believe me that this is a real job. And when others tell you to set more realistic goals, why not set your sights on a completely realistic goal of changing the world for the better? I can tell you from firsthand experience, that goal is completely worth chasing, and changing the world is possible. I started my show with a camera in the basement of my house, but now that show is broadcast in 82 countries, 19 of which ban the exact education that we provide. It's translated into 29 languages and seen by millions of people worldwide. More than 650,000 of our viewers want to someday work for their governments. They want to change the laws and bring equality to their countries. Another million of them want to someday be teachers and help the next generation know how normal it is to be LGBTQIA. And over 780,000 of them want to go into healthcare and provide gender-affirming care. Like I said, one piece of art can change the world. It doesn't matter if you have the best camera or paintbrush. All you have to do is start painting and start telling a story. It doesn't matter if that story is about a smashed pumpkin. And it doesn't matter if you have a puppet squirrel named Mr. Nutterbutters telling people the news every Monday morning. You can still win Best TV Show for 3 years in a row now by doing exactly that. And you can help millions of people along the way. So once again, I would like to thank the Schuylkill Hope Center for inviting me here today and for hosting this amazing day in the park. If you want to learn more about our show, you can visit us at ProfessorPride.com or check us out on YouTube. We would love to have you join us either way. But as I end all of our weekly episodes, I am your host, Professor Pride. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a gay day, everyone, and bye for now.